behind almost each and every of our transaction is the real trade. So someone shipped the goods to somewhere, and we always facilitate the real economy.
I would even say the more challenging the market, the more it needs our attention and the attention of export credit agencies and their support.
What we observed during the geopolitical changes and this turbulence, supply chains are changing, the trade flows are changing. We have over 2,000 banking partners all across the world. So we are capable to issue our guarantees into almost any country, even some very exotic and even some difficult countries.
Offering these products out of Vienna, one shop, so to say, with knowledge of almost all Western European export credit agencies and their way of cooperation makes us a unique partner.
International expansion is exciting and complex. Today we are going to explore how RBI supports clients navigating cross-border growth, ensuring smooth transactions and operational continuity. This is the start of a series around international business. My name is Johanna Duchek, and I'm very happy to talk today to two colleagues, experts in their fields. Welcome Evgeniya Sharkova, Head of Trade Finance Sales, and hello Sanin Merdžan, Head of Export Finance Sales. Let's start with the basics. Export and trade finance. What do these products have in common and what are the differences?
Maybe let me start from short to long term. So our products, they have a lot in common, and both of us facilitate trade. And actually very nicely we complement each other. However, since my focus is trade finance, let me elaborate on trade finance. Our prime goal is to mitigate the risk. So trade finance is one of the products which enables our customers to mitigate counterparty risk or performance risk of a counterparty, as well as to provide short-term financing solutions to also support the working capital of the companies. And what also makes us a bit different from export finance is that in one transaction, normally we pull two worlds together, which is quite unique. So we often have on the one hand side our exporters, let's say a company supplying some goods or a machine to Morocco, and on the other side we have a bank which represents an importer, so which will issue, for instance, a letter of credit to secure the payment and delivery of those goods. And we, as RBI, we will take risk of the bank, so confirm the risk, and by doing so we will also support the exporter and facilitate the trade. So that's about trade finance, but maybe, Sanin, you briefly elaborate on export finance.
Thank you very much. So if we talk about export finance and similarities to trade finance, you are totally right, Evgeniya. So I would say it's about trade and trade in challenging markets and finding solutions for the challenging markets. And indeed, if we talk about export finance, it's about long-term financings provided to buyers of capital goods. And therefore, we have very nice products in place, which we have been doing for decades. Apart from that, what I would also like to say is about risk mitigation. Why is that so important in export finance? Because we are collaborating a lot with export credit agencies who are there actually to support exporters. And in doing so, they are offering us as a bank political and commercial cover. Yeah? So this is the big impact when we talk about financing of such products and customers, of course. What I would also like to mention is the fact that our customers are not only corporates, but also banks, and they can also be sovereign borrowers, such as the ministries of health, ministries of finance, and so on.
So we have pretty close products and many similarities handled and addressed from different perspectives. Evgeniya, what inspired you to specialize in trade finance?
That's a very good question, Johanna. Thank you for this one, and not for asking why I became a banker, because at least for that one, I can give a very precise answer. So I would say there are three reasons. So the first one, as mentioned, this product is unique because it's segment agnostic. So similar as export finance, we support not only our corporate customers, but also institutional clients. So be it banks, be it non-bank FIs, even insurance companies are in our portfolio. Second, it's international. Although very often RBI is perceived as a CE bank, which is true. That's our home market. That's where we feel the most comfortable. But when it comes to trade finance, we do business truly globally. So we work with our counterparties in Asia, Northern Africa, LATAM, and that's absolutely fascinating. And the third reason is that trade finance is one of the products which is the closest to the real economy. Behind almost each and every of our transaction is the real trade. So someone shipped the goods to somewhere, and we always facilitate the real economy. And we enjoy this very close correlation with the real economy.
Sanin, what made you choose export finance?
Thank you for this question. When I was working as a relationship manager, after a couple of years spent with interesting industries and clients, a lot of nice banking products, of course, but none of them I would have the ability to dig in a little bit more into. So I decided to change the sides and go for export finance and started my career in RBI with export finance in the export finance department, where I learned a lot of new things, I would say, about export finance. And that brought me to another idea after spending some time with the product in the bank, in our bank. I decided to go to one of the exporters in Austria, where I had the opportunity, on the one hand, to bring in my knowledge from the bank, but also to gain a lot of new stuff and things with the exporter to see how a project is developed that makes it really special, and also to see what products are needed. And there it comes with a back to trade and export finance. And my responsibility was as a financial manager to find ways how to finance the buyers the best. So this is where we are coming from, actually. And therefore, we actually used trade and export finance products. So this is a familiar world to me. And actually, I like both sides very much.
And you know both sides. That's a big advantage as well. Good. Let's take it to the next level to understand the topic of international expansion. So a company wants to expand into a new market. What are the key topics this company has to consider?
Of course, there are a lot of important steps to be considered, and this is a crucial topic for each and every company when thinking about going beyond, right? I think the first thing that the company needs to ask itself is, how do I want to access the market? Is it the investment that I plan to do there? Is it a greenfield investment, a brownfield investment? Or is it maybe the export that I want to bring my goods into the market, nothing more than that? Maybe I want to invest in capacities in my home country. So these are topics that are quite crucial. It can be also franchising, for instance. Apart from that, I think it's also very, very good to have the right people employed, because we are talking about challenging markets, as we heard. We are talking about international markets. So the cultural differences play a huge role. So it's not just a theory. We hear it from many, many discussions with our exporters. It's a crucial thing. So you need people who understand the culture. You need people who can adapt to the culture of the target market. That's also a crucial thing. Other than that, it's about market research. So you need to know about your competition. You need to know who else is there, what can they offer, what will be my USP, so to say, and can I compete with my product? These are, I think, three of the many, many, many other topics. And sorry, I will come to the end. I think, and therefore we are here. The key point is you need a partner who can accompany you, and it's the bank is one of them, and I think we as RBI can do that very, very good.
Evgeniya, what about local laws and regulations? I guess there are some.
There are some, and there are a lot, and they're different depending on the market. And definitely, when the company decides to enter the market, even if we go for a kind of easiest scenario, although it's not easy, and they decide to export the goods, which is kind of the lightest version, still the local regulation plays a crucial role. So you need to understand it. To bring an example, if it's an emerging market, it's very common that there's a currency control there. And currency control can be extremely tricky. There was a case some years ago when in Egypt, which is pretty attractive market, by the way, there was a shortage of local currency. And what regulator did, they stopped or limited the number and the volume of outgoing payments in the hard currency. And as a result, there was a line of ships queuing in the harbor waiting to offload the cargo, and they could not do so because importers could not make a payment. So it's not that they didn't want to make a payment, but they could not because it wasn't allowed. And what will you do in this situation? Because you're an exporter and you are now incurring the loss. The solution at that time was that a letter of credit could help. So a letter of credit at that time in Egypt, each and every letter of credit before opening should have been pre-cleared by the local regulator. Which means that at that time that if a letter of credit is open, the funds for the payment of this letter of credit were reserved. It means that once the goods are delivered and all documents are provided to the local bank could make a payment in the hard currency. So it's a very good example why a local regulation is so crucial, because those who didn't consider it had a lot of problems, even some losses. The second thing which you want to consider is risk mitigation. There are different types of risk which exist in the market. So it could be a counterparty risk, performance risk, and political risk. So talking about performance risks, that's where the trade finance as a solution could help. So naturally, trade finance ensures that the payment is made only when all conditions of the agreement between an exporter and importer are fulfilled. And that's a perfect tool to mitigate the risk, be it payment risk, be it performance risk. The second thing which exporter might want to consider is a political risk, because let's assume that it's an emerging market which could be sometimes even a bit wild market, and political risk plays a role. And in this case, export finance could very nicely support the customer, and export credit agency, they cover even up to 100% of political risks, Sanin, if I recall it correctly.
Totally right. Up to 100% political risks and 95% commercial risk, sometimes even more.
So there is a lot to consider, and being well advised, I guess, is the best advice here. You mentioned the different risks, and even more complexity is added with the global developments we are facing. Trade war tensions, geopolitical risks, as mentioned, and also natural catastrophes. This makes minimizing risk essential for a successful and continuous business. How are you supporting your clients in this situation? I think you have a recent example about the Ukrainian case.
Yes, indeed. So this is actually exactly where export finance can be a game changer. If we talk about wars, geopolitical crisis, and I would even say the more challenging the market, the more it needs our attention and the attention of export credit agencies and their support. Yes, supporting Ukraine is something that we have been doing before the war, and especially when the war started and after the war. Of course, we made a huge experience when we were faced with currency control limitations, especially. It was not easy to react in the right way. However, now that we are in a daily contact with export credit agencies and with the Ukrainian borrowers, despite the war situation and all the difficulties that they face during the war, and we can only imagine how this is, we found ways to secure the repayments, to secure the money, and also to find ways to make every party happy, including us. And this experience, it's something you cannot buy on the market, right? And this is also why we said we want to continue this nice story with Ukraine. And that's why I'm very happy to say that we are about to close our first ECA-covered transactions with an Ukrainian company. And looking at our pipeline, I have to say it looks good, and I'm very promising that we will do even more. So I think this is a nice example.
Absolutely, thank you.
Sanin, if I may, because I couldn't resist sharing it, it's really also a very nice story on how trade finance facilitate the trade. Again, sticking to this example of Ukraine, we as RBI, we didn't stop doing business with our Ukrainian partners even a single day after the start of the war. How do we do that? So RBI, it depends on from year to year, but in some years we facilitated approximately 30% of import of all critical goods supplied to the country where the payment method was a letter of credit. So what we do is we have a great cooperation with our local banks and our long-lasting partners like EBRD and IFC. And by doing so, we ensure that local importers, represented in this case by local banks, and in this case we deal almost with all banks in the Ukraine, they can import the goods which are crucial for the country. So, and that's really a great success story, and it's a unique one because without trade finance, this import won't be possible.
So what you're saying is that we learn and adapt as we go through these crises.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Can we go that far to say trends are emerging from these global turbulences?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. There are multiple trends which are emerging. First of all, what we observed due to geopolitical changes and this turbulence, supply chains are changing, the trade flows are changing, and our customers, they are very smart. They try to use the momentum either to substitute the falling revenues from other markets, or they see that there is, for instance, an increasing trade between Asia and Europe, and they try to gain the markets share. What we see that there is an increasing trade between Asia and Europe. We see that Northern Africa is starting playing even more and more important role. The Middle East is also getting its importance. So there are a lot of trends going on, and what we as RBI are doing, we try to accompany our customers worldwide, and not only just to follow them, but make sure that we anticipate where they need us and set up all necessary infrastructure in advance, because it's absolutely crucial. You cannot just go alone. We some minutes ago we were elaborating on the risks. You cannot go and do everything on an open account basis. I mean, you can, but potential loss can be very high.
So we are creating a very positive impact in all these times with our export and trade finance products.
Absolutely.
For corporates as well as institutional clients. Now let's dive into the portfolio of the solutions that RBI is offering to our clients. From which export finance solutions, Sanin, can our clients benefit?
Maybe just a couple of words when it comes to trends, especially in our area. I think it's also crucial to say that looking at the last years, we see a lot of transactions going on even in Europe, which we consider as secure markets and not typically the challenging markets. However, this is the trend. Why so? Of course, we all have the big goal to change the industry, that we want to support green industries. We want to support, and we are offering green financings. And so the ECAs are also doing that. Due to the huge amounts needed, there is a lot of opportunities for export credit agencies also to support their exporters, and for us as banks to help them to get there. That's the one trend. The other one, I would say, looking at the export credit agencies and what they are creating, as I said before, we see more and more so-called untied and semi-tied financing solutions that they are bringing to the market. And we, of course, happily are using them. An example already given is the ÖKB shopping line, which we proudly can promote and have been promoting and would like to do even more of that. So you see, these are the trends. Apart from that, when it comes to the countries, we share the opinion of trade finance. We also analyze the markets very closely and together, looking what are the markets we want to focus more. And Asia was provided as an example. We see a lot of requests coming from Asia, but also from Africa. And now back to your question, our products. So typically these are bias credits when we talk about export finance, but also, as I said, project finances. We see more of that, and ECA covered project finances. We have been doing a lot, and hopefully we will do and continue even more.
Evgeniya, what's the differentiator in trade finance products?
Thank you for the question. I like that you mentioned the green financing because what makes me personally proud, and I spoke about this in multiple webinars and conferences, we do offer our solutions not only in a conventional way, which is kind of standard, but also in a sustainable way. And not only to our corporate clients, but also to our institutional clients. And that's something very special, especially when it comes to institutional clients. We can also even offer so-called greenium, which is a premium for or discount which a customer gets for using the funds and the solutions in a sustainable way. And that is something unique that RBI can offer. When it comes to the universe of our products, it's all kind of trade finance product guarantees LCs. What is differentiator? 80% of our instruments that we issue is accepted directly. Why it is so important? First of all, it's faster, which is crucial. I mean, trade finance business is a very fast business. Second, it saves the costs, so which is always a price benefit for our customers. And that's all because of our excellent ratings. So RBI enjoys 2 A ratings, one from S&P and one from Moody's. Last but not least, we are truly international. So we have over 2,000 banking partners all across the world. So we are capable to issue our guarantees into almost any country, even some very exotic and even some difficult countries. So, I mean, I always bring an example when people say, okay, you are RBI, you are CE only. I always say, okay, we have a corporate customer being domiciled in Spain, and for them we issue guarantees into Australia, and it works. Just to wrap it up, to being able to offer our products in a sustainable way, it's about global reach, and last but not least, it's about expertise and being able to issue the majority of instruments directly.
Great. We touched trends, we talked about green and sustainable solutions. What about innovations? Export and trade finance products are pretty old products. So how do you tackle innovation in 2025?
I think digitalization is the name of the game. So this industry, trade finance industry, as said, has been existing for ages, and it's still very paper-based. So just let's admit the fact. What we see is that digitalization is playing more and more important role. To bring you an example, so on the corporate side, what is absolutely trending over the last years is platforms. So smaller companies with a smaller portfolio of guarantees of letter of credits, they use proprietary platforms of the bank. So we as RBI, for instance, we have a really great and very user-friendly solution called eTradeOn, which is free of charge for our customers, and that ensures that our customers could send guarantee orders to us in a digital way and have overview of the guarantee portfolio that they have with us in a digital way. However, when it comes to the larger names, so when we're talking about really big portfolios of trade finance instruments, it's about multi-banking platforms. And what happens that the customers, they try to digitalize their processes. And I like an example of one of our customers. It's one of the leading players in the industry, so worldwide. They have a giant portfolio. So they have over 100 banks in the portfolio. The size of the guarantee portfolio comprises billions of euro. And to manage this, they have only 5 people. 5 people in trade finance team. That won't be possible if they didn't digitalize completely the back end system, the front end. So they really invested a lot of time and efforts to streamline the processes and onboard the platform. And then we as a bank, if we want to deal with such customers, we should be able to support this platform. So that's kind of a must. And we at RBI, we are really proud that we can support all multi-banking platforms, all majors like Comgo, also now GTS is a part of Comgo. We also support Rivo, we support DVS. By the way, we were the first bank in Austria who issued a truly digital guarantee with DVS. We were the first bank who onboarded the customer on Rivo platform in Austria. So we consider ourselves as pioneers in this field.
Great, and it's going to become even more and smoother transactions for our clients.
If I may just add to what Evgeniya said, so for us in export finance, indeed, we mentioned a lot of international markets we are eager and willing to access. However, for us, the fact that we are in Central Eastern Europe and we consider these markets as our home markets, and we also, I would like to say that we see a lot of potentials there as well when it comes to export finance. We think that offering these products out of Vienna, one shop, so to say, with knowledge of almost all Western European export credit agencies and their way of cooperation, makes us a unique partner. And I truly hope that we will see more and more of such projects in, especially as an example, in the Balkan regions, where we see a lot of positive movement when talking to the clients. And not only that, we have the great advantage that when we are there and we meet our clients, we do not do it just ourselves. We do it together with our network banks, who have the best knowledge and cooperation already with many of the potential clients. So this makes the whole story even more interesting.
Thank you. Now, to close and summarize our session today, what is your advice to a company that wants to expand internationally?
A good question, Johanna. So I would say prepare your market, as we talked about it in the beginning.
Yes.
Prepare your people. Yeah? And last but not least, find a suitable and reliable partner, which I hope will be RBI.
Definitely. And let's make international expansion happen.
Thank you very much, Evgeniya. Thank you, Sanin, for your time and expertise. And thank you very much for joining our series around international business.
Raiffeisen Bank International. Make it happen.